The lore behind the Dark Sea, as what I can imagine, is going to be dense. To get out of the way first, it's important to mention how the Dark Sea works in Arcane Odyssey's world and how it even came about. The Dark Sea is a massive cloak on Arcane Odyssey's world. It encompasses the entire globe, and with it comes untamed seas and monstrous creatures. The existence of the War Seas, and most likely the Seven Seas from Arcane Adventures, exist as tiny sea clusters that remain unaffected to the harshness of the Dark Sea. Even civilizations and cultures have been born from the conditions of the Dark Sea. Within Jaws lives Svini, a local who explains to you the traditions of Sharkara. The adults of Jaws sail out to the deep sea on their massive ships to hunt down sea monsters for sport. However, something that sticks out to me when reading this dev post about the Dark Sea is the mention that certain islands haven't been touched by the hands of humanity in ages. This could mean one of two things. Either A, these islands have been sailed to and charted by other ship crews that have traversed the Dark Seas many years ago, or rather, what I think is more likely, B, that these islands were once habitable without the looming threat of insanity generations ago. Between the Age of Gods, where Zeus and the Olympians stood mighty over humanity, and now, where mankind has been left primarily to their own devices without the strong hand of a god, something must have corrupted the ocean. The first and most prominent idea that comes to mind is Durza's global attack, the Wrath of the Gods, an attack casted that was so powerful it essentially vaporized many large portions of the Seven Seas. However, that wouldn't make much sense, seeing as these islands supposedly haven't been touched in centuries, whilst the Wrath of the Gods event happened months ago. Another possibility is that the Dark Sea is in reaction to Durza's combined assault against Theos and Oberon. During Durza and Theos' duel, Durza released a massive magic attack that mustered the strength of every curse and every single magic he had ever stolen to launch directly at Theos. This spell, quote, filled the air and the sea with magic pollution, causing massive tsunamis, huge storms, snow in hot places, and other anomalies. Some areas of the earth are now so malicious and polluted with energy that life cannot exist in those areas anymore. Obviously, then comes the plot hole, with the next line being the energy in the atmosphere and seas had remained this way for 500 years until it finally dissipated into space, which returned the world's weather back to normal. Why I would disregard this line is mainly to do with the timing of Durza's attack and what I think this line is actually trying to hint at. There's no other moment in the Arcane timeline that changed the weather and the entirety of the world than this moment here that happened centuries ago. As for the contradicting quote, I feel as though this is meant to justify the existences of the sea clusters, aka the war seas that existed and thrived despite the massive assault. Perhaps it could even be a combination of both theories, Durza's global attack causing the sea to act chaotically while the Wrath of the Gods luring in the ancient force of chaos that existed, now to cause insanity amongst the sailors that ventured too far out into the ocean. More importantly, structures and remnants of civilizations that existed out within the Dark Sea could be remnants of villages and castles from the Age of Discovery, buildings created during a primitive time in which humanity was just beginning to rebound from the fall of Mount Olympus and the rediscovery of magic in forms of magic circles. This could give way to interesting lore that explains magic circles more in depth and how we as a civilization have come to grow alongside the arcane arts. However, what I believe is much more likely is that the Dark Sea will begin to reveal much more about the history of the War Ages. It's mentioned briefly that the War Seas are home to some of the most ancient kingdoms and dynasties in the arcane world, most likely many of these dynasties predating the existence of magic itself. These landmarks in the Dark Sea are most likely points of interest from these ancient dynasties that have simply faded out or become extinct due to Durza's attack that wiped away 80% of the human race. What I imagine is left behind in these corrupted war seas are books detailing the history of kingdoms we've come to know, or will know, a detailed recalling of Wintervale before the extermination, more in-depth looks at Ravenna and how its nobles came to power, hints at the Order of Aesir and how they function in these chaotic seas, maybe even tales of other seas we have yet to venture to, such as the Nimbus Sea. Only time will tell, considering this update is still in the works, with VTEX posting updates on it consistently. So, see you guys in 20 years when that actually comes out.
Banana bread.